Welcome to Reading Through the Bible with Foluke. I really do hope you've been reading your Bible every day, with or without me. But isn't it much better to read it with me? All right, today we're going to continue where we left off, and that is with the story of Noah. So get nice and comfortable, grab a friend or something to drink, but what matters most is you have a Bible. Grab your own, read along with me, okay? We are reading through Genesis chapter 8. And this, if you recall, is after the flood. They were on that boat for a year. It didn't rain the whole time. It only rained for 40 days and 40 nights. But the waters took a really long time to go down. And, well, now the waters have subsided. Let's read. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. I'm already going to stop. You guys know I'm going to stop. It's like, what do you mean God remembered Noah? Did he forget him? That word basically translates to, it was time. God decided it was time for Noah. Okay. It was time for Noah and the animals to get off the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood waters began to recede. It was a whole process. Oh, we already read this part. I'm going to skip down, go back to the last video. Basically, it took, what was it? On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began. Noah was now 601 years old, right? The flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Now, Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. 2 more months went by, and at last the earth was dry. So it was an entire year. Why was the Bible so specific about how long this took? There are details in writing that the Bible drills into because they're actually important. And one of the reasons why is because this is a real story. These things actually really happened, right? And God wants us to see the proof in it. This isn't a fable. This isn't a children's fairy tale or something like that. This was real life. God wasn't playing. Okay, so he gives us the details. He gives us the details of people's ages. He tells us exactly how long they were on that boat, because then scientists can prove it to be true. I think that's wonderful. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you." You and your wife, I'm not dramatic. You and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, the livestock, and the small animals that scurry along the ground so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth. Now, the beautiful thing, I mentioned this before, but that there were no grandchildren on the boat, but there were also no baby grandchildren. So God says, release all these creatures so they can have babies. Well, they were on the boat. They didn't. A whole year. No multiplication of ants or lizards would have been in the water, right? So they don't count. Or snakes or parrots or eagles. None of them multiplied. There was enough room on the boat for the 2 of everything, right? With the exception of the 7 clean animals. Imagine if all of those things multiplied in a year, or even multiplied like they normally would. I wasn't even planning on saying this, but God wants us to know that he is the giver of life, and he also gets to stop it. Imagine that. He's the one that closes wombs and releases them. And so while all of these creatures and humans were on the boat, he stopped reproduction. That's how great our God is. Yeah, let's see if anybody else can do that magic trick. No, they can't. It's not magic. It's God. All right. So Noah and his wife and his sons and their wives left the boat, And all of the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and the birds that had been approved for that purpose. Remember the seven pairs of clean. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice and said to himself, I love it when God talks to himself, because I do. Okay, he said, I will never again curse the ground because of the human race. Even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood, I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night. God promises us the seasons will always be day and night. Time will always exist. As long as, did you catch that? As long as the earth remains, there will come a time, the Bible tells us in Revelations, there will come a time when this earth will end. So atheists tend to tell us that the earth has been around for billions of years and the earth will last forever, and we are mortal beings that will die, and when we die, nothing happens, right? But the Bible tells us something very different. The Bible tells us that the earth will come to an end and we will live forever. We will live forever in heaven, or we will live forever, in hell. But our spirits live forever. Chew on that. Okay. Then God blessed Noah and his sons and told them, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth, all the animals of the earth, all the birds of the sky, all the small animals that scurry along the ground, and all the fish in the sea will look on you with fear and terror. I have placed them in your power. I have given them to you for food, just as I have given you grain and vegetables. But you must never eat any meat that still has the lifeblood in it. Now, what is this about blood? There's something that God really cherishes about blood, which is why when Cain killed Abel, Abel's blood was spilt, right? And God said that the ground was screaming. The ground was telling on Cain. I love that too, because it tells us like all of these living things are living things and God hears them. But the blood is something that's extremely important. It is life, and it symbolizes life and atonement, right? So God gives very clear instructions about blood sacrifices, and eating animals that have the blood poured out of them, right? And not eating animals that die natural deaths, right? Where the blood was not poured out. And I know this may have been just for the Jews, but there's like actually health reasons, scientific reasons, medical research to support God's commands. Imagine. But one of the things about blood, I don't know if anybody ever gets into this in the Bible per se, but there is something about the fact that men don't bleed. I think I should get into another study, and the beauty of why women do, right? I'll save that for another day. Keep watching. For now, let's keep reading. Okay, so God says that he will require the blood of anyone who takes another person's life. If a wild animal kills a person, it must die. And anyone who murders a fellow human must die. If anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. That was God creating order, court system, justice, right? For God made human beings in his own image. Now be fruitful and multiply and repopulate the earth. I believe this is now the third time that God is giving this command to humankind. And as far as if anyone takes a human life, that person's life will also be taken by human hands. Now there's grace and there's mercy, and there's so much that goes into that, right? God himself intervenes, and there's just a lot when it comes to that. But the heart of it is, if it's taken kind of like the way Cain did, right? You're killing someone. This isn't a judge ordering someone to be put to death because they committed murder, right? That's justified. And there are other things that God considers justified. But somebody killing someone out of malice, in God's eyes, is not justified. And so he says that the punishment for that is a life for a life. Some people don't like that, but God is the one who gave that ruling at the very beginning of humanity. All right. I'm going to read this part. I feel like I did do this already. A little deja vu. Are you feeling it? I'm feeling it. Okay. Then God told Noah and his sons, I hereby confirm my covenant with you and your descendants, and with all the animals that were on the boat with you, the birds, the livestock, and all the wild animals, every living creature on earth. Yes, I am confirming my covenant with you. Never again will flood waters kill all living creatures. Never again will a flood destroy the earth. Now, did you catch that? It took me several times of reading the Bible to catch that. To catch that God made a covenant with animals. Every living creature on the earth. All the animals that were on the boat, the birds and the livestock and all the wild animals. God gave them this same covenant that he would never again flood the earth. And God is a promise keeper. And as we have seen, because we're still here, the earth has not been flooded out like in the days of Noah at all. So then God said, I am giving you a sign of my covenant with you and all living creatures for all generations to come. I have placed my rainbow. Ooh, we love the rainbow. I have placed my rainbow in the clouds. It is the sign of my covenant with you and with all the earth. When I send clouds over the earth, the rainbow will appear in the clouds, and I will remember my covenant with you and with all living creatures. Never again will the floodwaters destroy all life. When I see the rainbow in the clouds, I will remember. This is God saying, when God sees the rainbow, he will remember. Oh, as bad as these people are, don't kill them. Don't do it. Don't do it. Oh, remember? God says, when he sees the rainbow in the clouds, he will remember the eternal covenant that he made with every living creature on earth. Then God said to Noah, yes, this rainbow is the sign of the covenant I am confirming with all the creatures on earth. A covenant is a contract. Okay. Some people would say it's like a wedding ring. It's a symbol. And so that is what God has done. He's put his ring, his rainbow, and that is the promise that he has made that he would never destroy the earth ever, ever, ever again, ever again. All right, I'm going to keep reading. We're going to finish chapter 9 also in this video. The sons of Noah who came out of the boat with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. Now that's going to come up later. Why do we need to know that? Remember, every detail the Bible points out is for a reason. People's names are not just tossed in there just because. There's a reason. So we're going to find out why. From these three sons of Noah came all the people who now populate the earth. The Bible said so. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground. Is this sounding familiar? And he planted a vineyard. A vineyard, like a garden? One day, but this one had vine, grapevines that lead to grapes that lead to wine fermented. One day he drank some wine he had made and he became drunk. What? I thought we just got rid of all drunkards with a flood. Ham, again, the father of Canaan. We keep referring back to this because Canaan is going to be throughout the Old Testament. The father of Canaan saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe and held it over their shoulders, and they backed into the tent and dropped the robe on their father to cover their father's nakedness. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. Why is this important? Why is what Ham did so atrocious? So nakedness, remember Adam and Eve, and we'll get into that in a second, but Adam and Eve were naked in the garden. At that time, nakedness was fine because they didn't know, because they had not yet eaten of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But once they did, one thing that they very quickly recognized was that their nakedness needed to be covered up. And so a son seeing the nakedness of his father was a bit of a disgrace even back then. I say even because it's still something shameful today. You shouldn't see your parents naked. Why is it important that people be covered up? Covering is so symbolic to God, right? Like being covered in the New Testament, it says, put on tender mercies, put on kindness, put on humility. We're supposed to clothe ourselves, put on clothes. And the clothes that we wear is a representation of spiritual covering. And so when Ham saw the nakedness of his father, it's like he uncovered him spiritually. Not that he was the one who took the clothes off of him, but there was a way that he should have conducted himself, right? Had he walked in on that, he should have covered his eyes and done what the brothers Shem and Japheth did. But instead, he went gossiping about it. So not only did he physically see his father naked, but then he spread this, like the information of his father's nakedness, right? It became information to be disclosed. He didn't protect, cover his father, even spiritually, relationally, right? When you see a family member, sometimes families talk about, like, okay, this is our family information. We don't just go spreading it, right? But when you see somebody do something shameful, you can correct them privately. You can address it. But for you to then take that and share it with everybody, God says that is horrible. And that is what Ham did to his father. Physically saw him naked, but then he didn't cover him spiritually or relationally, lovingly. So all of that was really bad. But I'll finish this and then I'll talk a little bit more about how this connects to the creation, Adam and Eve. When Noah woke up from his stupor, he learned what Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. Why Canaan? Canaan didn't do anything. Canaan wasn't there. Why? Why Canaan? Why did the Canaanites become this horrible group of people? It had nothing to do with them being black. Somebody said that Ham was cursed because he was black. They were wrong. First of all, Ham was not cursed. And the reason why Ham was not cursed is because Ham was blessed. God had blessed Noah and his sons. He'd clearly said so. right? And now, anything that came out of Noah's mouth, by the way, was almost as if God was himself speaking. So Noah could not curse what God had blessed. So Noah couldn't curse Ham. That's why very early on we learned that Ham was the father of Canaan, because Canaan's name is going to come up because he's going to be the one to get the punch, to get the curse for his father's mistake. Not because he did anything wrong, but because his father was blessed, and God can't curse where he blesses. So the curse had to fall on the next of kin. May Canaan be cursed, Noah says. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Then Noah said, may the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant also. Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. He lived 950 years, and then he died. All right, stick around. I'm going to unpack this a little bit more before we get into chapter 10. Come back. Enjoy reading the Bible with me. I am Foluke Olayale. Until next time.